Hello and welcome to the demo of historical analytics reports for unified routing. We will be going through an overview of what are the capabilities that we're giving as part of historical analytics for unified routing, and then we will see live how Eugene, who has been the contact center supervisor and director for Contoso Software Division, making use of these reports in her day-to-day work. Now, as we have seen that businesses are expanding to multiple geographies, there is large influx of customers coming from different variety of backgrounds, and all these customers come with a different set of expectations from service delivery. That's why not only the roles of customers and agents, but also how businesses are looking at these contact service delivery is changing in these times. Organizations are trying to be more conscious about customer issues, and agents are trying to be more empathetic towards solving those issues as soon as possible. Now, as the roles of supervisors changing, they are not only playing roles of just trying to understand or overlooking how service delivery is happening and managing few KPIs, but they are now empowered to take decisions on how, if they can make use of different tools effectively to solve customer issues. Now, routing plays a pivotal role in the entire setup of contact center, where we're trying to connect agents, the right set of agents to solve the right kind of customer queries. That's why it's important for them to have an overview of how this routing system is performing and how it's helping their business, whether there are any issues that they need to go ahead and update and work on from a routing standpoint. This feature or this capability is a step in that direction, where we are giving historical analytics for with few routing specific KPIs, which supervisors like Eugene can make use to enhance their routing strategy. We have seen supervisors always getting bombarded with questions when when their agents are being asked to work on something that they're not supposed to do. Right? When we are assigned any work, what is the first reaction that comes to our mind if that work is not something related to you have expertise in, is why this work has landed on my plate. That's exactly the concern generally customers raise. Just to take example of Microsoft, let's say there are different divisions like Xbox and Office, and there are dedicated agents who are working on solving Xbox queries, and they get some query related to, let's say, Azure or Windows or Office. They would be clueless to solve these kind of issues, and the natural progression for them is to go ahead and raise this as an issue to the supervisor. Supervisor will in turn have a conversation with the administrator. Now, since there is a gap between supervisor and business administrators in terms of how one comes from a system standpoint, other comes from a business standpoint, supervisors also deal with constantly trying to manage if demand and supply is properly matched. If there are queries coming in a specific time period of certain issues, whether they have sufficient agents to solve with those kind of skill sets to solve those queries or not. And the most important aspect that supervisors and administrators always look at is, if customer satisfaction is going down, what would be the root cause of such downward trend? And more likely or not, it's related to work items getting routed ineffectively, or wrong agents being assigned to address the kind of queries that are coming from customers. That's why we have realized that supervisors need a peek into how effectively routing is driving their entire contact center, and how this entire routing setup is impacting the higher level KPIs that businesses are tracking. They also need to understand what are the points of failures which they need to go and work on, where they can identify if the misroutes are happening, where are those misroutes happening, what are the configurations which are leading to such misroutes, and go and have an enriched conversation with business admins or system customizers that these are the exact points of failures which should be improved in their system. That's why there are two versions of report you will see in the product. One is a conversation report, which specifically handles routing related KPIs when a conversation gets routed, like conversations, all live chat or digital messaging interactions between agents and customers can be termed as conversations. And then there is another report which is specifically curated to give routing related KPIs on records report. Now, both these reports are hosted under Omni-channel historical analytics and customer service historical analytics. So I'll quickly switch to the environment now to see how these reports look like for Eugene, for whom we have been configuring the system all throughout this while. We have been able to populate some data based on our testing, and for Eugene to go and access this report, first what they need to do is go to Customer Service Hub, and there is an entry for insights where there is Customer Service Historical Analytics report hosted. In this report, you'll find a tab for unified routing. Now, this report on a high level, you can look at this report from three different angles. First is, let's say you want to understand on high level how system is performing, just to kind of have a health check of how things are working out from a routing angle. You can go and have a look at how high level these KPIs, where we talk about how many records got routed, then how many routing attempts were required, how many times we were able to route the work item in the first attempt itself, and what is the transfer rate. Now, in this case, for Eugene, the threshold that they have set for a transfer rate is 2%. Transfer rate should not be more than 2% in an organization. Now, for previous month data, we can see that transfer rate is obviously going high. So what Eugene would want to see is where are those cracks which needs to be filled, and where are these transfers happening the most number of times. First of all, she sees that the maximum, the transfer rate is all from the default entity queue, because work is being sent to default queue since there are no routing rules to catch this work. So she can directly go to the system customizer and ask them to write rules so that work items are properly routed to all these queues, and make use of this data to enhance the routing model. There is another element. If you look at this high level, these trends, Eugene would see that on a particular day, that is January 21st, there was upsurge in number of volumes of data. So there may be some events in and around this day which may lead to seasonal demand spikes, which she can go ahead and update on the workforce management side. Like if, let's say, there are not sufficient agents to take up this rapid surge in the demand on a particular day, they would need to do some workforce management over there. Again, the transfer rates are also peaking up on the same day. That means that systems are not performing well when there is, that means the routing configuration is not yielding good results when there is upsurge in the demand. Another important thing that she notices that is coffee maker skill has been asked the most number of times out of all these queries. So with this, what she understood is that all the agents in their organization should be trained in some of these skills which are asked almost all of the times. So if there are coffee maker queries coming a lot, then if all agents are well skilled in that skill set, it would be easier for her to divert such queries to all these agents and even distribute the records. Now, there are other parts to the report, like when you see that the default queue is having the maximum number of transfers, Eugene will go into details of this, that what is happening within this queue. First of all, she notices that the transfer rate is above 7%, where the target transfer rate for a queue that they have set in the organization is, let's say, 2%. So she is facing this issue. She knows that there is some issue in the default entity queue which needs to be addressed. And she sees that the transfers have happened from this queue to Thailand queue. There can be some possible explanations to this, but what she has understood from her experience is, and while she interacted with the agents from Thailand queue, is work items which are supposed to go to Thailand entity support queue are actually landing in default entity queue. So she would go ahead and ask the system customizer to write a rule in route to queue rules in workstream configuration so that these queries are effectively tracked and distributed accordingly. There's another way how she can investigate on this, and that's what you may have seen in the earliest demonstration on routing diagnostics. Routing diagnostics is also available for supervisors, so she can go in supervisor's routing diagnostic setup, which either you can access from Omni-channel for customer service, or for all the records she can go that is accessible in CSH also. So like here you can open this routing diagnostics, and here I have already opened a view where I have added few filters over here that I'm just trying to look at all the work items where transfer count is more than 0. So in this case, let's say I got these many cases where I see that there is one work which has come to this queue, which is Thailand entity support queue. I can go ahead and see what has happened over here, where I see that there are no route to queue rules run, and that's why the work item has actually got and assigned to default entity queue from where it got transferred to Thailand queue. So she can do all these kind of investigations on her end, making use of these two features in conjunction, which makes the whole journey of finding the issues in your routing system to addressing it with the right set of rules makes very, very effective for supervisors. And it also helps administrators because they have places where they can go and see from where they can start their investigation. So this is specific for routing report. When you look at the Omni-channel report where we are covering the conversations, this report can be accessed in Omni-channel for customer service. You need to go to this plus icon, and here you'll find Omni-channel historical analytics. And under that, there is the same tab as you may have seen in this other report where we hosted that tab in customer service historical analytics. Here also you see that there are multiple things going on, and I have set up this for 1 week. If I set it up for 1 month, I'll get probably more number of data over here. What we are trying to do is, if you look at the data, you see that on 19 Jan there was peak demand, and for incoming to routed conversation, number of conversations that got successfully routed is less. That means not always we are able to find the right set of agents or right queue for incoming work. So that is a cause of concern for Eugene. Eugene needs to talk to the system customizers, or she can go ahead and ask write separate rules to cover all these different entities, all these different rule sets. So there are multiple, also for 54 conversations, almost 75 sessions have been created, which is alarming because generally a session indicates interaction between agent and customer. And if there are more number of sessions getting created for a conversation, that essentially targets to high transfer rate of the conversations. Now, if the transfer rate here also is not well above 2%, which would need Eugene to take some further digging deeper in this entire setup, where when she looks at this data, she realizes that Thailand support queue has maximum transfers happening out because the number of conversations are also less. There's 25% transfer rate over here. Even USA chat queue has maximum transfer rate percentage when compared to in absolute terms. So she can again go to routing diagnostics. As you see, I have already opened it over here, where she can go and look at the data. Now, let's say I open a conversation which was routed to the USA chat queue, and I see that this and if I open the actual conversation that led to this, I can see that this conversation was first routed to USA UK queue. From there, it came to this queue, which is an important. This conversation came to USA queue, but then it got transferred to UK queue. So this means Eugene now knows that there are certain conversations which are getting transferred to USA queue, which are supposed to be in UK queue. Now, there needs to be some changes in the route to queue rule for such conversations. That's one. Let's say if I investigate few more things over here, if I open another conversation which got transferred in this time frame, I see that this conversation has been transferred 3 number of times. Earlier, it came to USA queue, then it went to Thailand queue, then again went to UK queue, and there are multiple transfers happening. So what is happening over here, and you see what are the skills that were needed for this kind of conversation. Based on this, Eugene understands that first of all, there are issues in route to queue rule where work items are getting mixed and getting routed to USA queue, which was supposed to go to either Thailand queue or UK queue. And then there are certain work items where there are certain conversations where we don't even know which queue these conversations should belong to. So she would need to dig deeper onto those rule sets, or she would ask the system administrators to dig deeper on the rule sets and see if any kind of changes can be done. This is how Eugene makes use of historical analytics reports for both conversation and records targeted for unified routing. This is a routing specific report. She can also access to the other reports which talk about overall health of the contact center from a historical standpoint. Now, the next part is how you can enable these reports. For enabling reports, it's pretty simple step which Eugene needs to take. She first of all needs to go to the service management area. When you log into Customer Service Hub, you need to go to Service Management area. In Service Management area, you will find that there are insights settings hosted over here. When you click on Insight setting, this page will open up where you will see certain reports which you can consume. The historical analytics report is part of this group, but it has dependency, and there are few prerequisites that you should take into consideration when you're using historical analytics report in customer service. So first thing is you need to make sure that you have unified routing turned on in your environment, and you're actively using unified routing to route cases. And second is this customer service historical analytics report should also be enabled for you to consume historical analytics report. Similarly, like when you turn this on, this report you can access either in CSH like how I showed over here, or you can go in CSW customer service workspace, and there also you can access these reports. Like in this drop down, you will be able to access customer service historical analytics also in CSW. For Omni-channel, you need to log into Omni-channel Admin Center app, and once you go there, also you will find the similar setting called Insights, where the setting page is hosted. Now, for you to consume these reports in Omni-channel or for conversations, there is only one prerequisite. That is, this Omni-channel for historical analytics report should be turned on. You'll find the setting for historical analytics for unified routing over here. But the parent should be turned on for you to go and make use of this report. Now, what you have to do is you just need to go to manage and enable this report. Same thing over here, you just need to go to manage and enable the report, right? And once reports are enabled for Omni-channel, like I mentioned earlier, you just need to log into Omni-channel for customer service. In this drop down, you will find there is a report called Omni-channel historical analytics. Within that, this report is hosted. This report can also be accessed in CSW application following the same flow. You just need to log into CSW application, let the presence load, and go in this plus icon, which would help you access both these reports in the same place. Like you see here, there are both reports available: customer service historical analytics and Omni-channel historical analytics. So once the presence loads, you would be able to access these reports in customer service workspace. So this covers the reports related functionalities that unified routing provides. Our goal with these reports is to keep evolving and adding more and more KPIs and make it richer so that organizations can work towards having more robust and less error-prone routing logics, routing systems, which would ultimately help their customers get connected with the right set of agents as soon as possible.